Yes, Aspedia. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. In ancient times, the oracle was a source of wisdom and fortune telling for the people. In modern times, he just gives out football picks. Welcome to the NFL Oracle. Week 4 of the NFL is officially upon us. We got a pretty good slate to go ahead and break down and discuss. And as always, guys, I've got some really great picks to go ahead and share with you. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new week of NFL football comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I have 14 straight bets to go ahead and share with you guys in this week's NFL slate, as well as some parlays and teasers to add on at the end of the video. Don't worry, if you miss any picks, there will be timestamps down below in the description, as well as all the final plays in the pinned comment. Now, real quick, before we dive into this week's picks, we do have to do a quick little recap of how we did last week. And being totally transparent with you guys, we haven't had the start of the year that we would have hoped for. Went 7-8 in our straight bets last week. We had an okay start. The 4 p.m. slates have really been killing us this year, as well as some of these primetime games as well. Ravens minus 4.5, tough beat there. Rams plus 3.5 was the toughest beat of the entire week, but a couple of tough misses in general. Bills minus 10.5. We had a minus 10.5. They won by 10, so a couple of really narrow losses there. But overall, just was not a great week. We went 0-1 on our parlays, 1-2 on our teasers. The teaser we did hit was the big tease. So shout out to Jay Lee 5862 for winning the Amazon gift card giveaway. DM me on Instagram at TassosPicks, and we'll get you that free $25 Amazon gift card setup. And if you missed last week's gift card giveaway, do not worry. We do a gift card giveaway every single week here on the channel. It is tied to our big tease, which comes as the final pick at the end of the video. All you have to do is comment Oracle down below, and if that teaser hits, one lucky commenter will win a free $25 Amazon gift card. Again, that will be the final pick in the video. There are timestamps, so if you want to go ahead and follow along with that teaser, what that pick will be, it is at the end of the video. But comment Oracle down below, and if that teaser hits, we're going to give somebody a free $25 Amazon gift card. The teaser is 2-0 so far this season. We didn't do a teaser week 1. We are 2-0 so far in the big tease, so 2 winners so far have been selected. Go ahead and join that contest, and maybe you could win here in week 4. All right, guys, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into our week 4 NFL picks. All right, guys, for our first pick in today's video, we're targeting, of course, Thursday Night Football, tonight's game between the Seahawks and the Cardinals, 8:15 p.m. kickoff. And our first pick, we're going with Seattle Seahawks on the money line here, minus 116 over on Novig. As always, guys, for a lot of these plays, they're available on multiple sports books for varying odds. Although Novig is the best available to me, it may not be the best available to you. Make sure to always go ahead and shop around for the best sportsbook odds available to you. And like I mentioned at the top of the video, guys, don't worry if you miss any plays, any picks. They will be down below in the pinned comment as well as in the description. So a couple of different ways to go ahead and follow along and tail. Riding with Seahawks money line here, and I got to be honest, I think Seattle is a much better team than Arizona. Defensively, they're going to give Kyler Murray a really tough time. Kyler Murray's been playing like Russell Wilson lately, if we're being honest. It has not been a clean effort of late for Arizona. They're not a great team. They're not a terrible team, but they're just not great in anything they do. Offensively, they've been average. Defensively, they've been average. Unfortunately, they're going up against a Seattle team here that defensively looks very strong and offensively have had their moments. If we jump over the dashboard here over on Guy Boston Sports, you'll see right now Arizona, like I said, 15th in total DVOA. Whoops, wrong game there. Let's go back to this one here. 15th in total DVOA, 19th offensively, 13th defensively. Again, they're not terrible in anything to do except for running the football, where they are 30th, and they just lost James Conner for the season, which adds insult to injury. They're just not a great team. Versus Seattle, number 1 team in the NFL right now through 3 weeks in terms of total DVOA, 6th offensively, 5th defensively. This is a really, really strong Seattle team. And another key thing to note here, guys, Seattle brings pressure. They are 6th in the NFL in terms of frequency of pressure. That's not going to do very well versus Kyler Murray, who versus pressure, you look at his overall numbers, completion percentage-wise, 67.4%. He drops to 53.8% versus pressure. His interceptions numbers rises. His DVOA drops to negative 124.6%. It's really bad. Kyler struggles versus pressure. Seattle is able to bring pressure more than almost any team in the league. Very strong defensively. They're coming off a very big effort against New Orleans, whereas Arizona is coming off a really lousy loss to a Niners team that's missing half of their roster. We also have the insights provided by Outlier. Arizona is 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games versus top 10 scoring defenses. And actually, that's not even against the spread. That's straight up. They are 1-4 straight up in their last 5 games versus top 10 scoring defenses. So nothing really looks good for Arizona in this spot. The only thing that concerns me here genuinely is the line movement here. Seattle was an underdog just a couple of days ago. They were plus 1.5. Now they're minus 1.5. The market's starting to adjust and correct itself. But why were they underdogs to begin with, coming off of that massive win against the Saints last week where the Cardinals had a pretty lackluster effort versus the 49ers? That's the one area where I'm a little concerned here is why is Seattle not favored by more? I know Seattle, they're 2-1, but they've had a pretty good turnaround. They've won each of their last 2 games by at least 14 points. And Arizona, even when they've won this year, they beat the Saints by 7. The Seahawks beat the Saints by almost 31 points. So, I just don't really see it. That's the one area I'd be concerned with is why is Seattle not favored by more in this spot? But that's really my only cause for concern. I think Seattle is a much better team, better defense. Offensively, they're not, I don't know how much better they are, but I think they're slightly better than Arizona. I just don't trust Kyler Murray in this spot. Short week, they lose James Conner. A lot of things are pointing against the Cardinals in this position. I like Seattle here. In one last stat, looking back to last season, Seattle won both head-to-head matchups versus Arizona last year. So just a lot of good data pointing to the Seahawks here. And again, for minus 116, pretty good value. All right, guys, moving right along. The next game we're going to go ahead and take a look at in this week's slate is the international game in Dublin, Ireland on Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. kickoff. I'm going with the Vikings and the Vikings-Steelers matchup, minus 2.5 on the spread. I'm grabbing them for minus 100, basically even odds. Over on Novig. This is another one where I think the Vikings should be favored by more in this spot. And I understand a little bit more in this game why they're not in comparison to the Seahawks-Cardinals game. Obviously, Minnesota, without their starting quarterback, they have Carson Wentz, and although Wentz did look solid last week, the Bengals and the Steelers, the Steelers defense hasn't been great, but they're definitely better than the Bengals defense. International game, I get all that stuff. The thing is, I just don't like the Steelers team all that much. I didn't like them coming into the season. After that week 1 win versus the Jets, they made me think for a second maybe this team was better than I thought. And then the following 2 weeks, they've lost to the Seahawks by 14, and they beat the Patriots by 7. But if we're being totally honest, that game, yes, it's a victory on the board, and this might sound stupid to some people, but I think it was a moral loss for the Steelers. You win the turnover battle 5-1, technically 6-1, if you include that idiotic Demario Douglas final play where he catches the ball basically right at the line to gain and then takes a step back, and then, it is what it is. My point being, Pittsburgh had way more advantages there, right? They had 4 takeaways more than the 5-1, right? Turnover battle. And they only won by 7. You change 1 or 2 plays. If Ramondre doesn't fumble at the goal line once, now you have a tie game. There's just so many chances where the Steelers had good ball position the entire game, and they didn't really capitalize on it. This offense was struggling to move the football against New England. If it wasn't for the turnovers, the Patriots win that game. That was an incredibly winnable game for New England. The Patriots were moving the ball pretty well. The Steelers defense, if I'm being honest, just hasn't looked that great this year. Look at the right side of the screen defensively. Pittsburgh, 26th in the NFL in passing yards allowed per game, tied for 26th in rushing yards allowed per game, tied for 26th in yards per play, 22nd scoring defense. The one thing they do have going for them, and again, we knew this would be the case, is the pass rush, right? Top 10 in sacks per game, 4th in QB hits per game, 7th in QB hurries, tied for 6th in tackles for loss. Their front 4, their pass rush has been pretty lethal, okay? We knew that coming into this, though. The problem is the rest of the defense just has not looked all that consistent. And again, they give up to the New York Jets, which that game looks even more puzzling considering how the Jets have looked since then. 32 points to the Jets, 31 points to the Seahawks. And then, again, they only give up 14 points to New England, but New England was moving the ball pretty effectively. They just couldn't stop turning the ball over. So I have a lot of question marks with the Steelers defense, but my ultimate reason why I choose Minnesota in this spot is the fact that I think this Steelers offense is going to have a really hard time against this Minnesota defense. Pittsburgh's, their pass blocking in terms of PFF grades, 23rd in the NFL in terms of pass blocking grade over on PFF. 15th in run blocking grade. This offensive line has just not been great. But the running game in general, the Steelers right now, their running offense in total ranks 29th in the NFL according to PFF in terms of run grade. So this team is struggling to run the football. They have a very poor pass block grade right now. And they're basically being forced to throw the football. Well, that's not good because Aaron Rodgers is constantly under pressure. Well, there's no team you rather not face, considering what we just talked about, than the Minnesota Vikings, who, by the way, Look at the pressure rate and blitz rate. Number 1 in the NFL in pressure rate. Number 4 in the NFL in blitz rate. Looking at Aaron Rodgers versus pressure this year, the numbers all drop. Okay, his completion percentage, 15. Now, granted, he only has 6 attempts versus pressure, so take it with a grain of salt. But 15.8%, his DVOA minus 179.5%. His interception percentage goes up. Even versus the blitz, it's not great. So they obviously are very good at that. They're going to put a lot of pressure on Rodgers. They also run a decent amount of zone, which he's pretty good against zone, if we're being honest. But the key thing here is the pressure numbers, right? They're going to be able to go ahead and put pressure on Rodgers here. I just don't know how he's going to fare in that spot. This Minnesota team's second best defense in the NFL in terms of DVOA. And again, you look at the home DVOA for the Steelers here, which they're in Ireland. But they're 22nd in the NFL, 21st offense, 23rd defense. There's just not a lot to like about the Steelers team right now. So yeah, Minnesota has Wentz, but honestly, Wentz played well enough last week against the Bengals where I think as long as he doesn't make too many mistakes, Minnesota should go ahead and win this game. Also, one last thing. I know I've been rambling for a little bit about this game. The Jets and Vikings met in London last year. Aaron Rodgers, obviously international. Brian Flores, basically same circumstances, a little bit different team. And Brian Flores got the best of him. Okay, that's the only time really he's faced Brian Flores in his career in the NFL. And it didn't really go well for Aaron Rodgers. Brian Flores had figured him out. They put Rodgers under immense pressure, and it really affected him in that game. So I expect a similar outcome here in this Vikings-Steelers game. And by the way, guys, sticking with this game for just one more second, my second pick from this game, my third pick overall, I'm actually going with the under here, 41.5, which I'm grabbing for myself, minus 125 over on FanDuel. Again, like I just mentioned, I do think the Steelers offense will struggle in this spot. I think Minnesota's defense is going to be able to put pressure on Rodgers and force him to make mistakes and make it hard for them to move the football. Okay, they've had a hard time running the football in general this season. Right now, the Steelers 31st in the NFL in rushing offense, just 63 yards per game. Even their passing offense hasn't been great. That Jets game has elevated their numbers. You take that Jets game out of the equation, again, it's only 2 games, but they have struggled against Seattle and they struggled against New England. Steelers offense is struggling in general. Now you go against a Vikings defense that is one of the best defenses in the National Football League. I just don't see Pittsburgh scoring a ton of points here. And on the flip side, like I mentioned, Minnesota's offense has been fine, but it is Carson Wentz. Although he looked pretty decent against the Bengals, I don't trust him to put up big numbers in this spot. Now, they do get Jordan Addison back this week. That's another reason why I do like the Vikings minus 2.5. I failed to mention earlier. They get Jordan Addison back. Christian Darrisaw now healthy on the line. So, Minnesota getting some key pieces on offense back. That being said, though, the Steelers defense does have weapons. They do have a decent pass rush. Minnesota's offensive line has been okay, not great so far this year. I just think that Minnesota, although they'll win the game, I just don't see either side really having a huge offensive advantage. International game, different time zones. You're going to be a bit groggy, a bit jet lagged here. Steelers defense, they haven't played great, but they do have obviously great pieces on that side of the football. I expect them to go ahead and keep this a lower scoring game. I think Minnesota wins this game, something along the lines of like 20-17, or even like how the Jets lost last year, 23-17. Something along those lines could happen here. I just don't see this total going over 41.5 at all. I just don't think Pittsburgh will be able to contribute enough. And then I think Minnesota's the better team. That being said, I just don't see Carson Wentz putting up big numbers on this Steelers defense. So the under 41.5, it's my second play from this game, my third play overall. All right, guys, moving right along here. My fourth pick in today's video, we're moving on to the Browns-Lions game, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going with the Lions here, minus 8.5 on the spread. Now, I think a lot of people are going to be scared off of this game because of how the Browns played last week against the Green Bay Packers. And the public betting numbers seem to suggest that there have been a lot of public tickets on the Browns spread this week. Of course, they just upset the Packers. 8.5 point line. A lot of people are going to be taking Browns plus 8.5, assuming that this defense will keep this game close. I totally understand the rationale behind that, but I do think Detroit will go ahead and take care of business. That's not to say that the Browns did not have a great game last week. They did. But I think the Packers offense is not as good as the Lions offense yet. There's a lot of young pieces in that Packers receiver room. The offensive line had a really bad, like one of the worst games in the last decade for the Packers offensive line. It was really, really bad. Now, it's not to say Detroit's offensive line is much better, but obviously you have Goff, you have the weapons they have with Gibbs, Montgomery, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta. You're going on. The Lions' skill position players, their weapons around their quarterback are much better than the Green Bay Packers. If the Browns shut down the run, which is where their strength is defensively, and if we go over the dashboard here on GuyBostonSports.com, we can go ahead and look at the DVOA numbers here. And you'll see Cleveland defensive DVOA, the third best defense so far this year. Their run defense, best in the NFL by far. Their pass defense is solid, but it's not the best. It's 18th in DVOA in terms of passing yards allowed. We go over the outlier screen, look at the right side of the screen here. Look at the Browns defense passing yards allowed. Now they are fourth, but I do think there's a little bit more weakness there. And again, this is a Browns team that can get beat big. I think everyone's thinking after that Packers loss that Cleveland can't get beat tough. They got blown out just 2 weeks ago by the Ravens, 41-17. A Ravens team that, by the way, just lost to the Detroit Lions by 8 points. Even if Cleveland's defense takes away the run, this Lions passing offense is dynamic enough where I think they should be able to go ahead and take care of business. Cleveland also on the road here in Detroit, hostile environment. I don't know how that pass defense is going to hold up on the road. There's something very similar we saw in Cleveland a couple years ago when their defense was out of this world. When they played at home, their defense was unbelievable. When they played on the road, you saw some more deficiencies and some more weaknesses. I think the same thing might happen here. And before we get ahead of ourselves on the Browns, let's be honest, this insight provided by Outlier shows us the Browns are 2-7 against the spread in their last 9 games as an underdog, just a 22.2% hit rate. So again, they beat the Green Bay Packers, they cover the spread, great. But this is a Browns team that's not very good. Okay, their offense is abysmal. We go back to the dashboard here. Their offense 29th in the NFL. They don't have a great offense. Their running offense has been their better strength. Well, the Lions have the fourth best run defense, in terms of DVOA. So there's a lot of things going against the Browns in this spot. Yes, I get it. Their defense is legit, not taking anything away from that. But I think we're overvaluing the defense now and undervaluing how bad the offense is. And in a spot like this, Detroit's a very good football team. Even on a bit of short rest, I think the Lions can take care of business and cover the spread of 8.5 points. Again, this is 9.5. We're taking it for 8.5. I don't see why Detroit couldn't go ahead and cover this number. The reality for the Browns is they just can't hold every single team to 10 points or fewer every week, right? The Browns have scored 16 points, 17 points, and 13 points. They have to be able to score, and I just don't think Cleveland can score. Detroit's defense is good enough where they're going to keep that Browns offense around 10 points. And then I think Detroit, as long as they score 21, they score 3 touchdowns, 21 points, they should be able to go ahead and cover because that Browns team just cannot score. Moving on, our fifth pick in today's video, our fourth game that we're taking a look at here is Chargers-Giants on Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff. And I'm rocking with the LA Chargers here, minus 6.5 on the spread. It's actually a plus money play, grabbing it for plus 104 over on Novig. Now, I know so far in this video I've been going with a lot of favorites here, but I do like the favorites in this week's spot. There's a lot of good spots on favorite lines. This one in particular, I really like. Now, I will admit right off the bat, there's an unknown factor with Jackson Dart obviously making his first career NFL start. Sometimes with rookie quarterbacks, you get one of two things. You either get they come out and they stink, which is what I ultimately think is going to happen here. Not that I think Jackson Dart's going to be a bad quarterback for his career, but this is a really tough first start. Or they come out and they just shock the world. Anything can happen. You don't have the type of film that you have on other quarterbacks. Preparation is a little bit tougher. When you don't really know what you're expecting, all you have for Jackson Dart is preseason tape and college football tape when he was at Ole Miss. So you don't have a lot to go off of here if you're the Chargers defense trying to prep for this game. And they're obviously coming off a very big battle with the Broncos last week. I've seen a lot of people shift to the Giants here, but I got to be honest, I just think this is a simple matter of the Chargers are a way better team. You can throw Jackson Dart, you can throw Russell Wilson, you can throw Jameis Winston. Whichever the 3 quarterbacks were starting this game, I'm betting this line. This Giants, their offensive line is not very good. The running game's getting better, like rookie Cam Scatterbo. He's really starting to pick it up. He's going to get more touches, it looks like. The running game's starting to pick up. They obviously have a couple nice weapons in the passing game with Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson. It's not all bad in New York, but their offensive line is very bad, and you're putting a rookie quarterback in his first career start behind a poor line against a Chargers defense that is one of the best in the NFL right now. The Chargers have the 7th best defense in the NFL in terms of DVOA, and their pass defense is 5th. So really good defense. They're also very strong offensively also. But defensively, this team has a clear upper hand here. And considering the Giants' offensive line, right now tied for 26th in QB hits, tied for 25th in QB hurries, tied for 24th in tackles for loss, and tied for 17th in sacks allowed. Putting a rookie quarterback in his first career start against that defense, it should be a criminal offense for Brian Daboll. But Daboll's trying to save his job, so I get why he's doing it, but it should be a criminal offense. You play the Saints next week. Just put him against the Saints for Jackson Dart's sake. But they're throwing him out there now because I think they know the writing's on the wall. Daboll, the seat is very warm in New York, so he's trying to save himself here. And on the flip side, this Giants defense, there was a lot of talk coming into the year. And to be fair to them, their pass rush is very strong. You see they're top 10 in sacks, top 10 in QB hits. Tied for 17th in QB hurries, tied for 16th in tackles for loss. Their pass rush is pretty solid, but their defense overall is not very good. 31st in rushing yards allowed, 28th in passing yards allowed. Tied for 33rd yards, 23rd in yards per play. All these numbers, a lot of bad statistics there for the Giants. And talking to Giants fans, a lot of them want to say that the Cowboys game inflated those numbers, and that's true to an extent. But I mean, the Chiefs' offense was dead, and they scored 22. Week 1, the Commanders did their number on them. I just don't think this Giants team is good, whereas the Chargers look like a legit Super Bowl contender to me. So I like the Chargers a lot here. And if all my rambling didn't convince you here, there is a nice stat here that Outlier provides. The LA Chargers are 10-2 against the spread in their last 12 games as a favorite. That's an 83% hit rate in their last 12 games as a favorite. So for plus money, yeah, I'm rocking with the Chargers here. And real quick, guys, before we continue on with today's video, I want to talk to you about the sports book that brought me that plus money line for that Chargers play, Novig. That's right, guys. Novig is the sponsor of today's video. If you have not dabbled into peer-to-peer exchanges, you are absolutely missing out. Using Novig allows you to get unbeatable prices and lines on just about every game. Why, you may ask? Because it is other users setting the lines, setting the odds. You are competing with other users, not the big books. Peer-to-peer is growing at a crazy rate. Don't be late to this, guys. Sign up for Novig today. Use the link in the description or the pinned comment, and you'll get a nice sign-up bonus of up to $50 as well. Check it out, guys. I'm telling you, Novig is awesome. As you can see from today's video, a lot of great lines that I've been pulling from Novig. So go ahead and check it out. It operates just like your normal book, but with better lines. Special shout out to Novig for sponsoring today's video. All right, guys, this next game I have 2 picks coming from, and it's a game where there's a lot of frustration on my part. I am, of course, talking about Titans, Texans, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. And my first of 2 picks from this video, I'm going with the Titans on the spread here, plus 7.5. I'm grabbing that personally from minus 115 over on Novig. Again, shout out to Novig, sponsor of today's video. And look, guys, I haven't had the best start to the 2025 NFL season. A large part of that is due to the Houston Texans. 0-3, I bet them every single week, and it's my stupidity because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But how? How have the Texans not won a football game? What happened to this team? This is one of the best defenses in the league in the last 2 years, and they've completely fallen off, both offensively, obviously. They are putrid offensively, but even defensively, they're not as good as they used to be. If we jump over to the dashboard over on Guy Boston Sports, Houston right now, the 25th team in the National Football League in terms of overall DVOA. They're 28th offensively, 19th defensively. Guys, this team is really bad. Points per game last in the NFL this year. 26th in passing yards per game, 23rd in rushing yards per game. The red zone touchdown percentage, dead last. This team stinks. Bottom 10 in average time of possession. They have a high turnover rate. There's not much to like about this Houston team. Now, to be totally fair, actually, we'll go back to the dashboard real quick. There's not much to like about this Titans team either. Their offense is almost just as bad, if not worse in some categories, than the Texans. Their defense also has not been great this year, whereas like the Texans' DVOA numbers are really bad, but they actually are top 5 in the NFL in terms of points per game. 13th in passing yards allowed per game, 16th in rushing yards allowed per game. The Texans defense is down. It's not completely terrible, but it's not very good in compared to what they're supposed to be. Honestly, guys, you can call this a hate bet, and I understand some people might not want to take this because obviously I'm a little bit pissed off with the Texans, but it's honestly the same thought process I had. If you guys watch my college football videos, which, by the way, if you haven't, check those out, because unlike here, I have been red hot with college football. Last week, I bet Syracuse spread against Clemson. I wish I could say I bet the money line, but I bet them spread against Clemson because Clemson was a 17.5-point favorite. The Clemson was not playing well to begin with. I could not see them covering a line of that size, considering the level of poor play, despite the fact that Syracuse obviously an inferior opponent. It's kind of the same rationale here in this spot. I don't think the Titans are a very good team. If you look at the numbers for this year, Tennessee, there's been a couple times this year I thought about betting them, but they've honestly been getting beat pretty bad in every game. They lost by 8 to the Broncos. That's their closest game. 14 to the Rams, and then 21 to the Colts. So it's actually been increasing every single week. So they actually haven't covered this spread once this year. But the Texans also haven't covered this spread at all either this year. Okay, they haven't won a game, so obviously they're not covering -7.5. I just have a hard time betting the Texans again, considering that they haven't won a game all of the year, and now they have to cover a spread of more than a touchdown. They have to win by 8 points. That's a lot, considering how bad this team has looked. And again, Tennessee has not looked great in their own respect, but I think considering how poorly the Texans' offense is right now, I think Tennessee can hang around in this game and keep it at least within this 7.5 point number. At this point, honestly, Titans money line might be something to sprinkle on too. I don't know, but I do think Tennessee plus 7.5 is the way to go. Again, this is not a very good Titans team, and normally if they're playing anybody else, I'd probably bet the opposite. But the Texans are playing so poorly right now, it's hard for me to go ahead and take them to win by more than a touchdown here. I get it. Their defense is still good, and it's going to put pressure on Cam Ward and this Titans offense, which has the worst offensive line in the NFL right now. But this Titans defense, which also isn't great, they don't have to do much, and this Texans offense isn't going to be able to move the ball. I do genuinely think Houston wins this game, but I actually think Tennessee plus 7.5 is the right spot. AFC South, these division rival games can kind of get tough. Even last year, as bad as the Titans were last year, they lost by 5. Actually, the Titans beat the Texans the first time they played, 32-27, and then the second time they played, it was 23-14. So relatively close. They didn't cover the spread of 7.5, obviously, in that spot, but these games have been closer than people would think. So I think Titans plus 7.5 is the right play. And then my second play from this game, guys, is the under 39.5, which I'm grabbing for -125 over on BetMGM. I don't have to really spend too much time on this one, as I just explained when discussing the Titans pick in general. Where is the points going to come from in this matchup? Houston cannot score. The Texans are averaging 12.7 points per game. The Titans are averaging 17 points per game. So neither of these offenses are all that good. Even let's say Houston's offense does wake up a little bit. They're playing Tennessee's defense, which isn't all that great. Houston wakes up a little bit. Is Tennessee going to be able to add to that total? I don't think so. This under of 39.5 has cashed in all 3 games for the Texans this year, and the straight up under has cashed in all 3 games for the Texans this season. Now, Tennessee is a bit of a different story because when their opponents have been scoring a lot of points. The Rams scored 33 on them. The Colts scored 41 on them. So they almost covered those lines by themselves. But again, the Colts offense right now and the Rams offense right now, in comparison to the Texans offense right now, we're night and day difference. So I just don't see Houston, even if they do have a better offensive game, I don't think they're going to magically flip a switch and score 35 points here. The Titans defense isn't that bad. So I do think this is going to be a lower scoring game. 39.5 as the under to me seems like the right spot. Last year, the over did actually hit in both games in terms of the overall total, but the under of 39.5 did cash the last time these two teams played, 23-14. So I do think the under is a appropriate spot in this one. All right, guys, my 8th pick in today's video is another one that might come across as controversial to some. We have Eagles Bucs. 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going with the Eagles -3 here, which I'm grabbing for -140 over on BetMGM. Now, the reason I say this is controversial is because Tampa Bay has dominated this rivalry of late. They've won 4 of the last 5 meetings against the Philadelphia Eagles. That's all within the last 5 years, and including a couple of big playoff wins over the Eagles, or the one playoff win over the Eagles, I should say, a couple years ago. After the Eagles lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl the following year, the Bucs eliminated the Eagles from the Super Bowl, from the playoffs. Jesus, getting so stumbled over my words here because I'm so nervous you guys are going to go ahead and hate this pick because Tampa Bay has owned the Eagles of late, but I'm sorry, and I like Tampa Bay a lot, and they are 3-0. This is a battle of 2 3-0 teams. The Bucs are a player or 2 away every game from being 0-3. Now, admittedly, you could probably say the same for the Eagles, too. They have also played in a lot of really tight, close games. But the difference is, and we talked about this a little bit on H2H, which, by the way, if you haven't checked that out, that video is already out on the channel. Make sure to go ahead and check that out. The Eagles are winning close games against the likes of the Rams, the Chiefs, the Cowboys. A little better competition. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have miraculously made it past the Jets, the Texans, and the Falcons. The Jets are 0-3. The Texans are 0-3. The Falcons are 1-2. Not exactly a murderer's row of opponents. And again, they've barely snuck by in all of these games. Tampa Bay just has a lot of question marks right now. Mike Evans obviously hurt. They're still without Chris Godwin. Tristan Wirfs has been banged up. They just have a lot of injuries right now, and their offensive line's in a bit of a state of flux due to some injuries and whatnot. As fun as this Bucs team is, and as good as I think they truly are, I do think that this is by far the toughest team they've played. The Eagles coming off a very big win against the Rams last week. I just think Philadelphia is going to go ahead and take care of business in this spot. The Eagles obviously have a little extra layer of motivation as well because of that, like I said, that rivalry between Tampa Bay and Philly. If you remember last year, the Bucs kicked their ass, 33-16. This was the game that kind of launched the Philadelphia's run to the Super Bowl. After this loss, they went into the bye week, And everyone was calling for Sirianni's head. There were question marks about if the Eagles were going to fire Sirianni. They were going to make some changes to the team. And then they ended up going on this incredible run and winning the Super Bowl. So this Bucs game was the turning point of the early season for the Eagles last year. And again, they eliminated from the playoffs the year before. Philadelphia's had their struggles. I think there's going to be that extra layer of motivation to go on the road in Tampa and kind of return the favor and kick their ass in this spot. The Eagles are 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 games versus bottom 10 scoring defenses. Again, Tampa Bay, their defense is not terrible, but it's not great. If we go over to the dashboard screen, their defense is not terrible. You see 16th overall in DVOA, 13th offensively, 11th defensively. So they actually have a pretty decent defense this year in terms of the DVOA numbers. But I think this is a really tough spot for them. They got a lot of injuries right now. Mike Evans, doubtful. Christian Godwin, questionable. Even if Godwin does play, it'll be his first game of the year. And for Chris Godwin, it's going to be a really tough spot. Your first game coming back from a major injury, first game of the year against the Eagles, not exactly the place that you want to be. But yeah, I mean, Philadelphia hasn't even played their best football, and I still think they're clearly the better team. I just think these miracle wins from Tampa Bay, they'll work against the Jets and the Texans, might not work against an Eagles team that has had some miracle wins of their own. So I like the Eagles here -3. The actual line is 3.5. I'm afraid of that hook, especially the way Tampa Bay has been playing lately. So buy that half a point down, get it to -140, and play it on the safer side. All right, guys, our 9th pick in today's video. We're moving on to the Colts-Rams game, 4:05 p.m. kickoff. We're now moving on to the later afternoon slate on Sunday. Rams -3. We're grabbing it from -130 over on BetMGM. And this is more about testing how legit the Colts are than it is necessarily loving the Rams. Now, I do think the Rams have an extra layer of motivation due to the fact that they had that abysmal Eagles loss last week where they have a game-winning field goal that gets blocked and returned for a touchdown by a big boy. All right. That's unfortunate. Like, especially as someone who had Rams +3.5, watching a 350-pound D tackle return a kickoff. Like, if he had just fell on it and game over, I still cover my bet. The fact that guy, to be fair, that guy is Jordan Davis from Georgia Bulldog fame, who is a very good defensive player. But still, disheartening. But I think the Rams, obviously, that loss is going to put a little extra motivation for them to come out here this week and win this game. And as impressive as the Colts have been, I think this is a legit good team. I don't think this is like the Saints last year where they started off really hot and their offense really good and everyone's like, oh, are the Saints a good team? I think that one you could see right through it. I think the Colts are legitimately a good team. They are 3-0 against the spread so far this year. They've looked very, very good, but we have to be honest about the level of competition. They've beaten the Dolphins, who are 0-3, the Titans, who are 0-3, and the Broncos, who are 1-2. And although I think the Broncos win was impressive at the time, you got some question marks with that team right now, right? I mean, they've lost to the Chargers. They lost to this Colts team. The Broncos' only win of the year was against Tennessee. So there are some question marks right now about the Colts' legitimacy in terms of who they play. This is their real first big test against a confirmed good football team. And I'm interested. I do think this will be a close game. I think it's going to be very tight. I think -3 is the key number. If the line moves to 3.5, 4.5, something like that, I would avoid it because I do think the Colts are a legit good team. They have a strong defense, strong running game. Daniel Jones has been playing very, very well. You understand now why they made the switch from Anthony Richardson. I mean, look at these teams in terms of DVOA. The Colts, second best team in general, in terms of DVOA. Number 1 offense, number 9 defense. The Rams, 4th in total DVOA, 5th in offense, 12th in defense. These are 2 really, really good football teams. But again, the Rams a little more proven. They've beaten, their teams they've beaten. They played the Texans, who are also 0-3, the Titans, who are 0-3, and the Eagles, who are 3-0, they lost that game. So I guess you can question the Rams' legitimacy as well, but the fact they hung in with the Eagles there, and again, the score makes it look worse than it actually was. They had a field goal to win that game against the reigning Super Bowl champions, a 3-0 football team. I like the Rams a little bit more in this spot here. Again, this is the kind of I like the Colts, but I'm not yet 100% confirmed on them yet. This is the game that'll change my opinion. If they go out here and beat the Rams, it's like, okay, this team is one of the best in the AFC. The level of competition, again, you can make the same argument, I guess, technically for the Rams, but I have some question marks with the Colts against a team like LA. The Rams are also 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games versus top 10 scoring defense, which is obviously very, very good. Matt Stafford, very, very, very battle-tested here. And we'll see. Like I said, I think this is going to be a really fun game. I think you're actually going to see a pretty decent amount of points scored in this one. I'm not taking a total on this side, but I do think you're going to see a pretty high-scoring affair. But I really do like this matchup. This is going to be one of the better games on Sunday, I think. I do think the Rams will prevail in this spot. Now, guys, this next spot is another position where I'm more or less fading one team than it is necessarily loving another side. I'm, of course, talking about Jaguars, Niners, 4:05 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going with Jacksonville here on the spread. Plus 3.5, which I'm grabbing from minus 111 over on Novik. And like I tried to just say, I'm sorry if I'm stumbling over my words. It is early in the morning here recording this video here. I've been up early getting this job done. So still getting the engines woken up, so I apologize for that. But like I tried to just say, I don't love the Jaguars in this spot. I don't love this Jaguars team, although they have been decently impressive through the first 3 weeks of the season. There are some weaknesses I still see. There's still some things they're trying to figure out, specifically on the offensive side of the football. That being said, for the 49ers, I'm really fading them here. Now, I know Brock Purdy is questionable. He might come back in this game. If we look at the injury report as of right now, as you go through the whoppingly large list, where's Brock Purdy? Questionable. The toe sprain, okay. Purdy will be limited Wednesday's practice. That, of course, was yesterday. Mac Jones obviously got banged up as well. Let's see. Fares on the field. I mean, it's a coin toss right now in terms of, and even if Mac Jones plays, he's also hurt. So the injuries have just been piling up for the Niners. But even if Purdy plays or Mac Jones plays, it really doesn't change my opinion on this game. The Niners, I don't know what they've done to do this to themselves. I don't know if there's like a voodoo curse on them or something. But the injury list is unbelievable, because not just minor injuries, right? It's big time injuries to big time players. George Kittle hurt, out. Nick Bosa out for the season. Brandon Ayuk still out from last season. I mean, they have injuries in the offensive line. They got injuries in the defensive line. They got injuries in the secondary. Jawan Jennings questionable. Both quarterbacks are banged up and questionable. Ricky Pearsall questionable with a knee. I mean, their injury list is just overwhelming. And that's ultimately why I'm going with Jacksonville in this spot. I think there has to be a point, and credit to the Niners. Okay, they have been very good this year despite the injuries. Mac Jones came in for 2 weeks and played very well. The Niners have been very, very impressive. So impressive that they're a 3-0 football team coming into this matchup here with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which, considering all the injuries, the fact that San Fran is 3-0, give them the credit they deserve. It's incredible. That being said, though, there comes a point where you just can't overcome it anymore. There's only so much next man up mentality that will help you through these dark times. And I have a hard time without Nick Bosa, without George Kittle, without Brandon Ayuk. You know, McCaffrey's here for now, and fingers crossed on him. But you got both quarterbacks are dealing with injuries. It's just a lot of stuff they're dealing with now. It's a Jacksonville team that, you know, they're not the best team, but they have been pretty decent. I mean, you know, they beat the Texans, they beat the Panthers. Again, not saying much. Those are two. You know, an 0-3 team, a 1-2 team. You know, they hung in tight there with Cincinnati. Offensively, the Jaguars have been fine. Defensively, they've actually been very, very strong, which has been pretty impressive. That being said, they faced Bryce Young, Jake Browning for the most part, and C.J. Stroud. So, again, how much of that is who they've played and how much of that is how good their defense actually is. But the defensive numbers are very, very good for Jacksonville, and offensively, they've been good enough where I think they can go ahead and win this game against the 49ers, or at the very least, keep it close. You also have the insight provided by Outlier. Jacksonville are 8-4 against the spread in their last 12 games as an underdog, so they do pretty well in this role. For plus 3.5, that's the key line again. 3.5, avoid the hook. I think Jacksonville is the right side in this spot. I think San Francisco is going to struggle, even if Brock Purdy returns. The Jaguars' defense has been playing well, and their offense is good enough where they should be able to at least keep this game within striking distance of the Niners. So I like Jaguars plus 3.5 here. All right, guys, this next one, again, the concern here is why they're an underdog in the spot. I'm talking about Bears and Raiders, 4:25 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going with the Bears here on the money line. For me, minus 100 on Novik is the best available, so basically even odds here. Now, look, I'm not necessarily drinking the Bears Kool-Aid after that win, okay? It was the Cowboys. Their defense has clearly been terrible all year long. Russell Wilson looked like an MVP quarterback for the majority of that game, throwing for nearly 500 yards. That speaks more to how the Cowboys defense looks than, you know, how good those teams actually are. That being said, though, I do think the Bears are going to be okay. They had a rough start. That Vikings loss on Monday Night Football, obviously very disappointing. They got whooped by the Lions, but this is a team that's still very early on in the Ben Johnson era. They're still figuring out an entirely new offensive system for a quarterback in year 2. It's a work in progress, but I do think you saw some improvements last week against the Cowboys. And honestly, I'm fading the Raiders here. I don't understand what the Raiders' hype has been this year. They beat the Patriots week 1, and everybody kind of lost their minds. I'm not sure why. This Raiders team is not good, and the DVOA numbers reveal how bad it really is. They are the 3rd worst team in the NFL in terms of DVOA in totality. Offensively 27th, defensively 22nd. This team is not good at all. And what's funny about this is I didn't think they were good coming into the season. I was screaming from rooftops. This Raiders team is not a good football team. I don't care how much you talk to me about Ashton Genty and Geno Smith and Pete Carroll and all this stuff. It's not a good football team. Their defense is not good. Their offense is not good. Their offensive line is the big problem there. I think their offense would be better if they actually had a line that can block. But they're not doing Ashton Genty any favors right now. They're not doing Geno Smith any favors right now. Their weapons, I mean, Brock Bowers is definitely banged up. You can see he's not playing at the high level he was last year. He's clearly dealing with a knee injury. Beyond that, I mean, the receiving core was never that impressive to begin with. You had Jacoby Myers, and last week Trey Tucker had a huge game and stepped up for them. But there's just a lot of question marks with this team. Now I get it, the Bears defense, they are not all that good themselves, 24th in terms of DVOA. So you could see some points scored in this spot. Maybe Geno Smith has a big game, and the Raiders offense, they have a big game, especially that running defense, all right, pretty poor. Could be big for the Raiders rushing offense to get Genty going. Ultimately, though, I do trust the Bears offense a little bit more than I do the Raiders offense. The Bears offensive line is pretty solid. They obviously put a lot of effort in the offseason to improve that offensive line. I like their weapons. Rome Odunze has broken out in the Ben Johnson offense. Their rushing attack has been solid too with DeAndre Swift. I just like a lot of the pieces they have. And I hate to say this, but Caleb Williams, I think, has a higher upside and higher potential for better numbers than Geno Smith. Geno's a little bit lazy with the football sometimes. He's a little unprotective where he should be protective with the football. Some high interception numbers already from him this year. You give me for the Bears for even odds in a spot where, honestly, I think this is basically a coin flip game, but I think the Bears are actually a slight step better. Marcus Mariota and that Commanders team that was banged up scored 41 points on this Raiders team. What will the Bears do, who just had a pretty solid showing versus the Cowboys? And the one thing that's been consistent, they've scored at least 21 points in all 3 games. The question and where I get a little concerned, I guess, would be the Raiders offense, right? Or the Raiders get things going offensively. Can the Bears defense slow them down? I just think this Raiders team is pretty damn bad. And if they win this game, you guys can roll this clip back and make fun of me. I don't buy the Raiders team at all. I think I'd rather the Bears in this spot. The Raiders also 1-13 in their last 14 games as an underdog straight up, although they're technically a favorite here. So calling them an underdog, I'm not really sure why that is, but I like the Bears in this spot. All right, guys, a few picks left here. We have Ravens, Chiefs, 4:25 p.m. kickoff. I'm going with the Ravens on the money line here, which I'm grabbing from -134 over on Novig. Look, Baltimore, it's really tough because I think they've had a pretty good run so far this year in terms of their offense, right? I mean, you look at the season so far, they score 30 versus the Lions, 41 versus the Browns, 40 versus the Bills. Their offense has been humming along. The problem, and if we go over to the dashboard, you'll see, is their defense is a bit of a mess right now. 21st pass defense in terms of DVOA, 30th run defense in terms of DVOA. It's been brutal. And again, look at their offense. Their running game also hasn't really come together in the way they had hoped. But their passing offense has been phenomenal. I do think the running numbers are a little bit skewed because obviously the Browns game kind of kept them down a bit. They have some real issues on defense, but ultimately, guys, I don't buy the Chiefs. I bet them on Sunday Night Football. I was right on that spot. I knew they were going to win. I knew they would cover against a pretty bad Giants team. But that being said, this team still has issues. This is not a very good Chiefs team, specifically on the offensive side of the football, which is where you need to beat Baltimore. You need to be ready for a track race when you're playing the Ravens because this offense is very, very good. The Chiefs' defense, I don't think, is good enough to slow them down. They're right now 17th in total DVOA, 16th in passing, 22nd in running. Their defense is okay. It's not bad. I wouldn't call the Chiefs a bad defense, but they're not a great defense. And to stop this Ravens offense, you need a great defense. I have some legit question marks with the Chiefs offense, though. And again, the Ravens defense, where to attack. The Chiefs have played some weaker defenses already this year. The Giants defense, namely the Eagles defense, hasn't been that great. And they just haven't scored much. I mean, that Giants game was their best offensive output of the year, and they scored. It was brutal watching them get to 22 points in that game. Another spot where I'm more or less fading the Chiefs than I am riding Baltimore. I just think Baltimore, they had a tough schedule. They've played the Browns where they crushed them. They've got a pretty good defense. And they played the Lions and Bills, and they've come up short in some of these big-time games, and their defense is a legit issue right now. But I just don't think Kansas City is a team that will go ahead and exploit that weakness defensively. They need a team like the Bills or the Lions offenses to go ahead and exploit it. Even if they're the worst defense in the league, I just don't think Mahomes and the Chiefs right now have the personnel and the ability to go ahead and take advantage. Also, you have the Ravens are 14-6 in the last 20 games as a favorite, so you've got that obviously in their favor as well. And again, that extra motivation factor for Baltimore. The last time these two teams played, obviously the Chiefs won in crazy fashion. Mark Andrews nearly won them the game. I think obviously this is a rivalry, Chiefs-Ravens. Chiefs have owned the rivalry for the most of Lamar's career. So coming off that Lions loss, they're now 1-2. Both these teams are 1-2. I think you got to expect that Baltimore are going to come into this game firing on all cylinders, needing a win, because they dropped to 1-3. Now their division's obviously a bit weaker, so they're fine if they go to 1-3 versus the Chiefs going to 1-3 in the AFC West, where you have the Chargers obviously balling out right now. I just think Baltimore is going to be very fired up to win this game. So I like the Ravens a lot here on the money line. All right, guys, I have 2 picks left here in our straight bet category. Before we move on to parlays and teasers to close out the video, we have the 2 Monday Night Football games, which are they're interesting to say the least. The first one is Jets-Dolphins, 7:15 p.m. kickoff on Monday. I'm going with the over here. I'm not even going to try to take a side here. Battle between 2 0-3 football teams. I don't want anything to do with a side here because these are both equally bad teams. Miami did look a little bit better last week versus the Bills, as did the Jets versus the Bucs. I mean, the Jets obviously were in position to win that game. If I had a lean here, my lean would be the Jets. I just think Miami, they have a lot more issues behind the scenes than the Jets do. So I'm going with the over. I think both offenses have shown a little bit this year they can score. Both defenses do not look very good. Look at 2025, the numbers so far this year. The Jets, the over has cashed in 2 of the 3. Dolphins, the over has cashed in 2 of the 3. The over's hit in 8 of the Jets' last 10 games, according to Outlier. So the over just seems like the right play in this spot. I think that both defenses are pretty weak. Referring to the dashboard over on Guy Boston Sports, the Dolphins' defense 31st in DVOA. The Jets' defense 26th in DVOA. So none of those numbers are really working out. Neither offense is ranking that high either. But again, these defenses are pretty bad. I think that both offenses have shown at times, like Tua with that passing offense, they should be able to generate at least some points here. And, I think Justin Fields should return. Even if he doesn't, Tyrod Taylor plays. They just have enough firepower offensively. They should be able to score. I think this is going to be a bit of a crapshoot of a game. I think the over is really the only way you can probably take this game and feel somewhat confident in this spot. The last 2 times these teams played, by the way, last year, the over cashed in both games, whether it be the general over or this line of 43.5. They were 2 higher scoring affairs last year. So I could see a similar outcome happening on Monday Night Football. All right, guys, in our 14th and final straight bet here, we got Bengals, Broncos, the second of the Monday Night doubleheader. I'm going Broncos minus 6.5, which I'm grabbing from minus 133 over on NoVig. Denver has not been totally impressive, and honestly, a line of them to score a touchdown, to win by a touchdown when they've barely won the one game they did win this year against Tennessee. They won by 8, but they struggled to get there is what I'm trying to get at. I think this Bengals team is just in a rough shape. They obviously got whooped last week by Minnesota very badly. Their offense is an absolute mess right now. 31st in offensive DVOA, 30th in passing, 32nd in rushing. Their defense has not been great either. This is a get-right spot for Denver, in my opinion. I think their offensive line, it got Joe Burrow hurt. I don't think it's going to do Jake Browning many favors. This Broncos defense is pretty good, too. I believe we look at the right side of the screen here. This is the Broncos defense. Tied for first in the NFL in sacks per game. First in QB hits. Tied for first in QB hurries. Tied for 10th in tackles for loss. That is a nightmare. And they're also top 10 in turnovers forced. Nightmare when taking on this Bengals offensive line. I mean, they're tied for 30th in QB hits. Tied for 26th in sacks allowed. Tied for 29 tackles for loss. It's bad. It's really bad. This is a nightmare matchup for Cincinnati. Their offense is really struggling. And defensively, the Bengals are not very good either. For the Broncos offense, which has not been great, this could be a chance for them to figure some things out offensively. So, yeah, they haven't been playing great. Risky to bet a team that's favored by a touchdown when they haven't even been winning their games. But I think Cincinnati's in a real bad shape without Joe Burrow. This is what we talked about in the preseason show where it's like the Bengals, I bet they're under for a specific reason. This team is not built to deal with an injury, whether it be Burrow or Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. If one of those 3 guys goes down, and obviously Burrow being the most important of that trio, they're in bad shape. Burrow goes down. This Bengals team is a wash for this year. All right, guys, we're now moving on to the parlay portion of today's video. We're going to start with parlays, finish up with some teasers. The first parlay, and I'm using DraftKings for these parlays, the first parlay I'm going to go ahead and take a look at here is a simple 3-leg money line parlay, again, using DraftKings. Again, you can use whatever sportsbook you like, but I'm using DraftKings personally. Chargers money line, Ravens money line, and Broncos money line. So 3-leg parlay plus 185 odds over on DraftKings. 3 teams I think are definitely winning their games on Sunday. And I know some people might look at like the Ravens and be like, do you think they're definitely winning? I think the Ravens are definitely winning that game. There's a couple other ones that I could put, like the Lions I like a lot, but they're minus 535. It's not even worth it to throw them in there at that point. Philadelphia is one I like too. But I think this is a pretty good, simple 3-leg parlay for plus 185. And then, guys, my second of 2 parlays. I'm only doing 2 parlays in this video. I've got a 4-leg parlay. It is plus 1,287 over on DraftKings. We're just going with playing around with some spreads. We have 3 alternate spreads and 1 straight up spread. We have Jaguars plus 8.5 alternate spread. I think Jacksonville's going to keep that game close. But now, even if they lose by at least a touchdown or 8 points, they still go ahead and cover the spread. Chargers minus 8.5. Going a little bit in the opposite direction here. I think they're going to win this game by a healthy amount. I think this Giants team is a major step below the Chargers. So minus 8.5 for LA. Vikings just simple spread minus 2.5. I think they win that game and cover. And then I have Lions alternate spread minus 13.5. They got blown out. The Browns, of course, got browned out. The Browns got browned out. I mean, they did basically shit themselves in that game. They got browned out by the Ravens a couple weeks ago. I could see a similar result here. I think Detroit by 2 touchdowns is a pretty fair bet. You parlay all 4 together, you get a parlay of plus 1,287. All right, guys, wrapping up with a teaser portion. I have 2 teasers in this video. Actually, 3 teasers. I have a total tease as well. Jumping over to DraftKings here, we have our 3-leg teaser. Just 6.5 point tease plus 130 odds over on DraftKings. So 6.5 point tease, we're taking 6.5 points either added or taken off of a spread. We have Buccaneers, which is now plus 10. So I think the Eagles will win that game, but I don't think they're going to blow the Buccaneers out. We have Packers minus 0.5. All they have to do is win the game versus Dallas, and they cover. And Jets plus 9. I know that might be a risky play to throw in there, but I think the New York Jets, honestly, even if the Miami wins this game, they're not going to blow the Jets out of the house. I think the Jets, these are pretty even teams. Next up, we have our total tease. 3-leg teaser, 7-point tease, plus 120 odds over on DraftKings. We have the under in Titans Texans, which is now 45.5. I like the under straight up, so 45.5 makes it even better. The under in Vikings Steelers, again, another pick I gave out as a straight bet. Now taking that to under 47.5. We don't see that many points being scored. And then Bears Raiders, which is the actual line is 47.5. We're taking the over at 40.5, so taking an extra touchdown off of that line. It's a 3-leg teaser plus 120 odds, 7-point tease. And then last but not least, guys, our big tease. This, of course, being the teaser where we do our giveaway. So if you comment Oracle down below, and if this teaser hits, which is minus 140, so it's projected to hit, one lucky commenter will win a free $25 Amazon gift card. 4-leg teaser, 13-point tease, minus 140 odds. We got Packers, which are now plus 6, so they can even lose the game as long as they don't lose by more than 6, so they should be fine. Broncos plus 5.5, again, same principle. They can lose the game now. They just can't lose by more than 5. Seahawks plus 11.5. Even if Seattle loses this game, which I don't think they will, they have to be blown out in order for this not to cover. And then Rams plus 9.5. Keep it within 10 points of the Colts, and they should be good to go. So 4-leg teaser, 13-point tease, minus 140 odds. And guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. I'll be back next week with another edition of the NFL Oracle. Until then, guys, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your week 4 of the NFL season. Enjoy your week in general. Let's go ahead and make some money, make some damn money, baby. Let's go.